Welcome. My name is Michael Edgar. I'm the co-founder and president of GWDC. And GWDC is a not-for-profit that was founded a lot like what John was saying, was founded to make a difference. We choose to do this about creating economic development in a purposeful way. And we do that through providing catalytic real estate development projects, business training, and incubation through the Lake County Tech Hub, and then actually working with growing the region through foreign direct investment. And as we're about to get started, I want to say thank you to our sponsors. So we could not exist without our sponsors. I did want to do a special shout out to Emblem Media, who is doing the wonderful videography for us today. And if you get a chance to go to YouTube, we have a YouTube site, Select Chicago. Just type that into Select Chicago YouTube channel. It has a lot of the videos that we put together over the last 3 years, some of our China trips, some of our conferences, and it allows you to take that deep dive to go into the different things that we do. Other sponsors we have is MGP that helps run our deal book. We have Nortilla Consulting Group, and she'll be up on stage with us shortly. Steve Kim from RJK Global, who will also be up on stage with us. Richard Paullin from International Trade Association. Obviously, John Dallas, our host today with the Enclave. Prologix, Masuda Fanai, and then over the last year, we've gotten to really know and work well with the Alliance for Regional Development. And so today we're going to have up on this first panel, me, president of GWDC, Richard Paullin with ITAGC, Leslie Murphy with the Economic Development Specialist Village of Skokie, as well as Steve Kim with RJK Global. But first I'm going to talk about the Select Chicago model and the Select Chicago area. For many of you, this is your second year through working with us. Last year we had 25 municipalities working with us across multiple states. This year we're looking to grow to over 40. As you can see, with the benefit of Select Chicago, it's a regional idea. It's anything within 300 kilometers of O'Hare. Why is it 300 kilometers of O'Hare? Because this is the quickest way to get overseas. There's over, I believe, 80 nonstop flights to 8 countries around the world. You can get anywhere from here on a direct flight, which allows you to have certainty when you're coming from abroad and going across from abroad that you can work within this region. As you can see, we're working with counties, we're working with cities, and then we're also working with states. And everybody who's part of this chooses to be here. So this was some of the people that we had last year. The ones in red are on our steering committee, and we'll talk about them as we go through later in the day. The Select Chicago model is all about attracting foreign direct investment to this region. And as you put foreign direct investment together, there's really 3 flavors of it. One is greenfield investment. That's the BMWs, that's the Foxcons, that's planting your flag in this region. Another one is mergers and acquisitions, and with those are companies coming in to acquire a company, and our goal is to help retain those jobs within their communities. And the third is straight investment in either businesses or real estate development projects. And so we've now been running this program as Select Chicago for 3 years. Before that, it was just kind of nestled within GWDC as we were attracting foreign direct investment for some of the projects we were doing in Waukegan. But at its topmost, we're working with Select USA and other trade consulates to start bringing ideas and opportunities to this area. So from Select USA, it comes into Select Chicago, where we're working with different municipalities. Then it drops into really creating public-private partnerships with municipalities. GWDC has a good track record of developing public-private partnerships and working towards implementation of projects, because at the end of the day, we want to see projects built. We want to see them really develop economic development in this region. Some of the fun things about what we're doing with this model is understanding it's a doing well by doing good model, where everybody understands what's great about foreign direct investment is that it adds capital and resources to the region. It's not competing against, I'm taking a car lot from Arlington Heights and putting it in Buffalo Grove. It's all those different pieces that you all have with working as municipalities. By bringing new entrants to the market, you definitely allow for a greater sum of the parts. There's a blog article we put together on our website. It went out earlier the week. We're just talking about how much benefit Lake County, Illinois gets from Foxconn. And good, bad, and different as Foxconn comes about. A lot of the strengths for the workforce for Lake County fits right into working in Foxconn and keeping those engineers and the Abbott folks retained over time. One of the things that we've done a little bit differently than just straight up economic development as we've gone to Select USA is create something called the online deal book. This online deal book, as you can see, shows, in this case, I think 150 different opportunities that foreign direct investors can look at and start getting a flavor for the different area. We've asked each community puts these things together that says, what's going to move the needle in my town? What's really going to be that piece that makes a difference? We're really promoting, for those who aren't familiar with the model, projects over $2 million. We're not looking for the great next Subway franchise. We're looking for the next small manufacturer, maybe a tier 2, tier 3, that wants to interface within somebody, say, in Elk Grove Village. Leslie, when she's up here later, will talk about the benefits of something called a soft landings program, about recruiting teams of 2 to 3 scientists to land at tech parks and how they develop over time. The number one thing that we've learned by doing this a number of years is all of this takes time. It's not a silver bullet. It's definitely a team sport. It's not a winner take all. It's working everybody together to get this done. And so with that, I'm going to bring up Leslie, Richard, and Steve to come talk about how they work within the SelectChicago model. And so with me today is, and we all have our agenda, so it's always good to read. So I have Steve Kim, Managing Partner of RKJ Global. We have Richard Paullin, Executive Director of International Trade Association of Greater Chicago, and Leslie Murphy, Economic Development Specialist with Village of Skokie. And so what we're going to do for the next 20 minutes is really start talking about the SelectChicago model and how these three folks here interface with that program. And I'm going to start with Steve, because we work with Steve when we're talking to businesses that wish to come here. And it's not just about landing. So Steve, we've had a number of good conversations about what it's like to bring a company in. So I want you to spend a couple minutes introducing who you are, and then how the immigration and also the business planning phase of bringing a company in, what that looks like.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael. My name is Steve Kim, and I'm an attorney here in the Chicagoland area, and our firm primarily focuses on international activities, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures. Our main region is actually the Middle East and Africa, but we do work with countries all over the world. I think when a company decides whether or not to come to Chicago or wherever else throughout the country, there's a lot of things that are going through their minds, right? I mean, there's the macro kind of issues that we always discuss on economic development, the tax incentives, what kind of offerings there are from the municipal level, the state level. Those things are a little bit more macro. But there's also, I think, very specific business purposes and also personal issues, right? I mean, people are moving their entire lives over here with their families, and this discussion, starts from their home. They talk to their coworkers, they talk to other people that understands the area, and it's really a hand-holding process. We as lawyers, of course, would help out on the kind of the immigration issues, the business details, setting up the company, LLC, all those kind of activities. But those things that can be done by, really, a lot of people do a lot of research on Google and things like that these days. So, I mean, a lot of these things, they pretty much well understand. But I think it's very important that, there's a lot of hand-holding. There's, the immigration process is going to be the most difficult aspect of it, and there's going to be so many questions related to that. How do they bring their families? How long can I stay? What should I do with employees that I hire? I mean, those are major issues. They're going to need very good accounting services, financial services, because everyone throughout the world's biggest fear in the United States is taxes. Right? I mean, they somehow, even though we're not the highest taxed country in the world, but there's this, I think, conception that we are overly taxed, and a lot of people are very afraid of the tax issues, especially when they have property at home in their home country and other places. So tax also becomes very important, and of course real estate, and on a personal level, where they're going to send their kids to school. What are the institutions, what are the cultural institutions that are near them so they can actually have a real life. So those type of activities and those kinds of issues have become very important.
Great, thank you. And then, so Richard, so good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
So I want you to talk about what the International Trade Association of Greater Chicago does. Your background. I think you've only been doing this 27 years with ITAGC, so you're still a rookie.
Yeah.
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 And so, now you'll take.
Thanks very much for having me here today. I am reminded of, when John was talking, I'm reminded of the old adage that outside of Chicago there's a state called Illinois. And it's really quite true. I mean, the collar counties and the municipalities that you represent have often been overlooked, and I am delighted to see that you're trying to engage with all of this. The International Trade Association of Greater Chicago was actually founded, I am told, in the Elk Grove Village Library in 1977. And for many years we met in Elk Grove Village. The concept was that for small and mid-sized companies involved in international, the only game in town for international events was in downtown Chicago. And you know how much fun it is driving into downtown Chicago for a luncheon or a dinner, how much it costs to park, how long it takes, So we started meeting in the evening after work in Elk Grove Village. And for many years we did that. Now we meet in Rosemont. But the trade association over the years, and I haven't been with it since the beginning, strangely enough. I joined it in 1982, so almost the beginning. But we're there to serve the international business community, much like SelectChicago, in terms of sharing information, in terms of providing a network for people, and in the process, people come to us now. And I get calls from people all over the world. They say, oh, we want to do a program, or we're interested in doing this in Chicago. We heard Chicago's a good place to do business. We get all kinds of requests. But what we have learned over the years, in the early days, there was a lot of experimenting going on. What kind of programs work and what doesn't. And we would invite politicians to come and talk, and they would invariably either not show up or not know what they were going to talk about. So we stopped inviting politicians, we stopped inviting foreign ministers, unless they were bringing trade delegations. And we got down to, look, what we can do is provide practical, actionable information for people. And that's been our focus ever since. Every time we can bring a trade delegation together for business-to-business talks, that's when we're really doing well.
So Richard, talk about what we are doing together next month.
We are next month, March 20th, having the Chicago International Trade Commissioners Association with a panel discussion in Rosemont, and then a reception to follow. To the best of my knowledge, this is the only association of international trade commissioners in the country. And there are something like 50 members, I think, from 40 countries. it's really quite remarkable. You know, we have more consulates and trade commissioners than any place outside of Washington, D.C. And they're a real great resource. They are engaged. They want to engage with you. And so March the 20th, I think there are registration forms on the table over there. And we're very pleased to be partnered with SelectChicago for the second year in doing this. This is the fourth time we've done it. And it's proven to be very popular, and I encourage you to attend because you got to get to know these people. They're from all over the world. They're fascinating. And as John was saying earlier, you should ask them a lot of questions because they are really smart people.
Right, and I'm going to wrap up our session with Leslie in a minute, but I have two more questions for our panelists, and it also goes back to what John was talking about today. With working with trade consulates, it's a two-way street. They want to know that you spent that time in getting engaged with them. And so, Richard, one of the nicest things that we have with getting to know your trade consulate, the event next month, is learning what they do and their company and their culture of their country. So why don't you talk about how important it is not only to understand their culture, but to get out and visit them in their home country.
Yeah. Well, and you have to understand that all of the consulates, all of the trade offices anyway, have a slightly different focus and a different flavor, as I think you would call it. Some work strictly on behalf of companies in their country, doing market research and things like that, and it's a fee basis. Others are interested in investment and trade opportunities, and as Mike said, it's important to get to know these people and know what they do and what they're looking for, and let them know what you have to offer. I mean, one of the things that occurred to me on my way over here this morning in my days was that something SelectChicago could do would be to go to Sitka and say, gee, we'd like to have all of you come here so you can meet us all again. And put a video together saying, hey, this is Chicagoland. You know, this is who we are, and you know, send it back to your home country. We'll get it translated for you, whatever it takes.
Okay. That sounds great. So yeah,
Just to add one thing about that.
Just grab the mic. It's your turn.
Oh, okay. Just to add to that, you know, I think we rely so much these days on these machines, right? And you know, cameras, there's Skype calling, there's the new next whatever, and that's all fine. But I still think the physical presence, the interaction, especially initially, being able to, you know, dine with them, I think that is still very, very important. And I think there's too much reliance on this, and I think a lot of people think, well, why am I going to travel, you know, 6,000 miles when I've got this and I can see their faces and we can communicate? But I don't think that's the right attitude. I do think that physical meeting one-on-one is still very important.
Yeah, and actually, Steve, the follow-on question to that is, and we're going to hear about Select USA in a little bit. They do a number of road shows. We go on those a lot. But you're also talking about the wonderful thing of doing the off-market, one-off type of event. So why don't you talk about some of the successes of doing the smaller shows, the smaller countries, and what your experience with that?
Right. And there's so much focus on the big countries, right? There's, you know, you have to go to China, right? You have to, and those countries, I think that they're important that you do have to focus on, but you can't, there's a lot of countries out there, there's a lot of smaller countries that create a lot of opportunities. These days, you know, Africa's the fastest growing continent right now. You have the Middle East that is growing. You have, I understand Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of political issues, but you do have a young crown prince that is really trying to make some dramatic changes and trying to work closely with American and Western businesses. So I do think there also needs to focus on all levels, on the municipal level, the governmental level, not-for-profits, to also look into some of the countries that we don't always talk about. And I do believe that countries in Africa, Middle East, there are some great companies over there, innovative companies out there that I would say is more yearning to come here to work with American businesses. So I do think there's some great opportunities there.
Great. And what I'm going to do, we're going to bring down the screen in a sec. So, yeah, it'll be fun. So have you guys go take your spots back over there. And we're going to have Leslie talk about her slide. So,
Okay.
All right, so good. So,
For coming back since we saw you last year, and for some of the newer friends and new associates, welcome, and you're going to have a great year if you stick with us. We have a very robust organization, and it's growing all the time. And my job here today was to basically let you know and give you reassurances as to why a community should want to continue to be a community partner with Select Chicago, but all the benefits that you're going to be getting as a result of your association. And it's mornings like this that reaffirm that in my belief, that we're bigger than just the town that we represent or the region that we represent. We are Chicago, we are Chicagoland, and this association can be used as a resource and an avenue for what your plans are, your objectives are for your community. My remarks today are going to be focused on three distinct areas: what Skokie has gained and what I personally have gained from my association with Select Chicago and Select USA as well, because I did go to Select USA several years before I decided to kind of pivot into more of the Select Chicago role. Share some of the things that Skokie has done to help encourage FDI, and as Michael mentioned and everybody here will also attest to, things take time, but you can have a lot of fun during the time that you're getting to your end goal. And we've also, I want to share a couple of lessons learned that I have been able to gain from the groups of people that I have met via Select Chicago, as well as the groups that Richard had just mentioned, and focusing on some of the key aspects that John Dallas and Steve also reiterated, that the personal contact continues to be something that people hunger for. Yes, we are always on our phones, always on, in front of the television monitors and what have you, but the networking and the time that I have spent not only with existing companies within Skokie, but the ones that I'm also meeting through the Illinois, the ITAGC. I mean, their sessions are so educational, so fruitful, and I always come back with 15 business cards or stories that I've been able to share. And it's always a good reminder that these companies, these people from other countries, are hungering to meet more of you. They don't want to just meet the people that they're working with in a WeWork setting down in Chicago. They want to get out there. They want to know what Chicago is all about. They know that it's more than just sitting in the Loop or getting on a plane at O'Hare. So what we're finding, which is really gratifying, is that a lot of these chambers of commerce, these international chambers, these consul generals and what have you, they want to know more about Chicago. And that's why we had such a good turnout amongst these European and Israeli and Japanese. There's a whole host of groups out there that many of you may not even know exist, but have actually expanded our horizons. But two facts that everybody needs to be reminded of, and this is stuff that's coming from World Business Chicago as well as from Intersect Illinois, who we've worked with on several matters. Chicago leads the U.S. in FDI. There are 1,800 foreign-based companies here in Chicago alone, $100 billion of investment, and the facts don't lie here. We've got, just in the last year, 1,000 new people were employed, from foreign direct investment companies. So the reasons why we're involved here are basically to Skokie, improve our marketing in response to the request for proposals that come from your site selectors or come from the state. Michael mentioned the deal book. This is a sample of what one of our properties looks like in the deal book, and it's just a great resource for us. It's one more avenue of getting the word out about properties that we have in town. Obviously, to enhance our local tax base, I totally view Select Chicago as a spinoff opportunity that I don't necessarily have to go to Select USA anymore because Select Chicago goes on our behalf, and they're representing the Chicagoland area. We have about a dozen foreign-based companies in Skokie that I'm aware of. You know, sometimes you don't even always know where these companies came from. And I feel like I have been able to support those companies more so now because I've been affiliated with some of the chambers that they're affiliated with. And I also like strengthening my connection with Chicagoland communities. I mean, this is really a wonderful atmosphere here. It's very collaborative. We're going to have several of my colleagues talk a little bit more about that aspect. We're learning from each other, we're gaining from each other, and we're stronger together. And we just want to continue to make sure that Chicago continues to have that #1 status right across the country. Just want to touch on a couple things that we've done. This is our early effort to attract foreign direct investment, and I have since, through my association with Select USA and Select Chicago, made a much better set of collateral materials. So this is what we started with, and we've got stuff better than this as a result of my association. When we were trying to attract Vetter to bring in another manufacturing company, they already had a development services company in Skokie, we sent our mayor to Germany. And before we did, we had to put together a package that basically meant that, you know, we understood what they were looking for, and this is just a couple of examples of the kinds of stuff that we did. I've had critique of this through my association with Select Chicago, and now we're doing a much better job at this when we are preparing our collateral. The important thing to note is that there's a lot of good stuff out there that the City of Chicago and Chicagoland can offer when you're putting together your marketing pieces. And also the state of Illinois, there's so much information that comes from Intersect Illinois and the utilities, and just makes for a better package. So I wanted to just touch on some of the things that we've learned, you know, as you know, through our association. But also, I'm sharing. I think a lot of other communities would like to share and have what they've done critiqued. I also want to just remind everyone here that. One of the things that we really want to hone in on that's happening all over the world is the concern about the quality of workers when they're here. So we spent a lot of time with our local community college to develop programs that are similar to what the apprenticeship programs are like elsewhere. And so that's been a wonderful opportunity for us to really understand what's going on, not so much even within our municipal boundaries, but that are serving our district. The last thing I was able to do before I got here today was I wanted to spend a little time with our brokers in the community that are out there advocating for Chicagoland to be the choice for a company that's coming in from Israel or Brazil or whatever. And I really listened to what they were telling me. And one of the things that they want us municipal groups to know about is that there is a strong need for a well-organized, early stage, single point of accountability. If a state or a broker or a company that you meet either through your own networking or that identifies Decatur or someone else as a possible location for their business, every town needs to have a tangible, reality-based information source. So if there's any information that you walk away with from today, it's going to be making sure that somebody at your town, and not just a group of people that are assigned to be the FDI people. You really have to have one person that is on tap to be that responder. And then if they don't know the answer, they need to know where to find the answers that are needed for these business decision makers. Continually sell the region, not just the community. As we've heard today already, there are all sorts of reasons why a business decision maker will come to Chicago. They want to know that you are interested in them and not just what you're going to tell them about the community or the area that you're pushing. Obviously, it helps to know that, for instance, we did a little bit of an effort to find other German companies in Skokie as well as elsewhere. And they want to know that. They want to know who else is around so that they can feel comfortable. And one of the things that just got mentioned, we don't qualify qualify, but opportunity zones are huge right now amongst foreign companies. They want to know who has them, how they can be worked to their advantage. And then on the flip side, once you do get a business in town, and some of you already have some, I'm sure you know this, that if you're recruiting and you can afford to send somebody to the country of origin, it can mean a huge difference in terms of the ability to understand what's needed. And also because the brokers tend to, a lot of times, sell certain things that can or cannot occur, you really have to have somebody on board that can be that reality check person and kind of work through some of the expectations that maybe they came into with. One of the things I learned recently was that in order to get a New Zealand company into our town, the owners of a technology park literally got on a train and did a video of what it takes to get on a subway and then come up to Skokie. And then they also did a video of a drive to the airport because these people were confused. They didn't know how far away things were. We didn't put them in traffic, obviously, but there was, this made a big difference. It showed that the community cared. It showed that the manager of the property that they were looking at cared. It showed that they understood what their concerns were. And then, of course, to be sensitive to overall cultural differences. And I'm learning, I know Michael and I have talked about this, we go to these European nights or whatever, and we find out, something about a particular country or a person from there, and you remember that going forward, some iteration that how they perceive Chicago or they're from France and they're concerned about this. So, our expertise is expanding, as a result of this. Yes.
It just occurred to me, if you're looking to attract, foreign companies with foreign workers, and one of the key issues you have up there is helping in that transitional need for those workers. Reach out to some of the existing companies in your area, their HR departments.
Yes.
Who do that, and healthcare providers, as far as Asian recruits in healthcare, very knowledgeable in terms of how do you get through that international, green card and
Oh, yeah.
situation.
Well, there are obviously plenty of people out there that would like, but you need to put them in touch with those people that can know how to do that.
If you're trying to figure out how do I go about doing this, you're not doing it, you're not alone.
Yeah, it's not easy. So, in closing, I'm just wanting to make one more comment here. And last summer, we had our big Select Chicago conference, and we had tours that we implemented in order to get some of these companies and the people that are representing different countries out there into Chicagoland. And we've done several of these beforehand, we've done several since then, and you get better every time. We've given mock tours, if you will, and so kind of an itinerary of what you can do to expose a company or someone representing a country as to what are the primary features in your community. But the discussions on the bus, the discussions before, during, and after are also what's valuable. So it's a learning process. I have to say, from a soft landing standpoint, we're getting more smaller groups of companies coming in to kind of test the market, and many of them are operating out of the WeWorks in downtown. They want to be out in the suburbs. They don't necessarily want to be downtown. So, and when I say suburbs, I'm talking about the whole Chicagoland area. So places like this, that John Dallas operates, and any other places that you know of, if you go to these international networking, you'll find that some of these companies don't necessarily want to be downtown. They want to be out there. They want to be closer to the airport. They want to pay for all the, the cabs and the Ubers and everything. So that's just one final thing I wanted to mention.
All right. Well, thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
As we developed Select Chicago last year, we did and as Leslie was just talking about, how great it was to have international investors come look at the Chicagoland area. And when we have our large conference when is it this year? August 7th. And so August 7th, it's only like 5 months away. It's coming up quick. But last year, we put together a small video.
Anything that encourages people to move to the Chicago area shows our strength and vitality, especially with perceptions out there. And we need to show them it's the complete opposite. This is the best place to invest, and we all gain the benefit from that.
The Select Chicago Summit is a spin-off event of Select USA, which is a program of the Department of Commerce. We brought in delegations from different nations, trade consulates, international chambers of commerce, as well as 25 municipalities in the Chicago region. It creates an opportunity to attract foreign direct investment on a global level and compete with international cities that they would not otherwise be able to.
The openness of broadening the borders of Chicagoland all the way up through Wisconsin down to Indiana was truly a great experience and something that we need to embrace and market as a region to the greater world.
You're talking about new dollars coming into your community, not the normal domestic investors, but people from other countries who find that there's extreme and extraordinary value and benefit to coming into your area.
We had investors who went to the Select USA show just a few days ago and came straight here to Chicago because they know Chicago is a great opportunity. Not potentially, it is a great opportunity.
So that was our video. So it was really well received, and Michael just went that way. So I liked him being our main spokesman as it came through on that. And so as we're getting ready for Select Chicago 2019, definitely reach out to either Karen Kahn or I to see how you can get involved in what we're putting together for this year.